Welcome back, my friend. My name is Catherine, and along with 101 other hobbies, I like to spend my free time restoring, painting, and refinishing old furniture, which is what we're doing in this video. Today, I am taking this cheap veneer top table and giving it an all-white rustic farmhouse makeover. So let's roll that intro and get right into it. This table has seen much better days. 2 of the 4 legs have been scratched at with some kitty cat claws, and there has also been an attempted repair with some sticky wood putty. You guys, this stuff is so tacky it may as well be chewing gum. Like all of my pieces, I am giving this a very thorough cleaning with hot water and my Fusion TSP alternative. I am also taking a coarse steel brush and wiping off as much of this wood filler as I can. And look how much dirt that's removed. Gross! When using TSP, you also want to make sure you take the time to come back with some hot water to wipe off any remaining product. The finish we are going for today is a very simple and timeless white look. This is a great go-to finish, or a good place to start if you are into any rustic style. And while it is indeed simple and easy to achieve, there is a bit more to it than simply slapping on a coat of white paint. White paint is where we need to start though. Here I am applying a coat of gesso white chalk paint by the brand Jolie. You can use any brand or color that you want, but I would recommend chalk paint for this finish, and that's because chalk paint is quite thick and you can achieve a lot of texture with it. On the top of this table, I am keeping all my brush strokes in one line, trying to get almost a fake grain going with the raised texture the paint provides. You can see that my grain is going to go in the opposite direction of the grain of the veneer beneath. And I chose to do this because lines accentuate distance and length, and I wanted this table to appear longer than it was. So I wanted my lines to run in the direction that I wanted the eyes to look, so in this case, lengthwise. Line is one of the 7 fundamental elements of design. It's the reason why curtains make a room feel taller, for example. If you are interested in stepping up your art game, I highly recommend taking a look here on YouTube for information about the elements and principles of design. They are a bit abstract and take some time to wrap your head around, but they do truly help you understand what looks good and why when it comes to art and design. But that's a whole nother topic for another day. I am giving the whole table and legs 2 coats of white paint, spaced about 2 hours apart to dry. For the top, I am using a 2-inch Palm Pro brush by Zebra, which is comfortable and great quality, but more importantly, it's rectangular, which helps me get smooth, straight strokes over a large flat surface area. For the legs, I am using a round brush by Zebra, which is made for curved surfaces like these table legs or stair spindles, for example. This helps get paint into all of the crevices and provides an even application on both the high and the low points of these legs. Now, you definitely do not need fancy equipment to paint. There is a lot you can do with a 50-cent brush from the dollar store, trust me. But if you are in the market, it is true for painting what they say about having the right tool for the job. Things definitely go a lot faster and easier with a better quality finish. I am not sponsored by Zebra, though I do use their brushes the majority of the time and would definitely recommend them. Having nice quality equipment also makes me care a bit more about what I'm doing. I take my time to prep and clean up so that these tools can last a long time, and I'm a bit more detail oriented when I use them because I'm paying closer attention to how they look and feel in my hand. But enough about that. Let's let this paint dry and move on to our next step, which is glazing. Glazing is something I've done a few times on this channel before, and it's my go-to for toning down chalk paint, adding more aged character, and bringing out texture. What we're going to do is take a good old wood stain, apply it all over the paint, and then wipe it back before it dries. This lets the stain soak in slightly to the top layer of the paint, and especially sink into any crevices or depressions, just like dirt would over time. It's important to work in sections because you really don't want this to dry before you're able to wipe it back. This can sometimes make it hard to match from section to section, but rest assured you can always add a bit more stain over any areas you feel are too light or not properly blended, and this essentially re-wets the product underneath so you can wipe it back once more. I'm going to repeat the process on the legs because I want my whole table to match. But maybe if you're up for it, you could get playful with some color and try a different stain on different areas. I want to take some time to make a quick note about branching out and fear of failure. I totally know the feeling of spreading out a new color and absolutely hating it, or not wanting to mess up something that looks good with a technique that you've never tried. But I want you to reevaluate that story that you're telling yourself. When you hold onto your work so preciously, it stifles creativity and chance, and it replaces it with the possibility of fear. There will always be other projects and canvases, so just remind yourself that. Especially with painting, where covering up a mistake is really as easy as adding a fresh coat of paint. So get out there and try new things. You never know what's waiting just around the corner. Alright, enough of that. For now, our table is looking good and we are on to the last few steps. The first thing I'm going to do is grab my sanding sponge and work on the top of this table. And what I love so much about glazing is that when you sand off just the slightest edge once the stain has dried, you expose some of that white paint underneath, and this really brings out the grains. So we used that chalk paint back when we were painting, and we gave some nice thick strokes in the lengthwise direction, and then that stain has soaked into the cavities and depressions like I had said, and now we're sanding off those high spots where we're gonna get that pop of white in contrast to the dark gray right next to it. I'm also going to take some time to do some regular distressing around this table, and I do want this to look fairly shabby, so I'm going to go all around the edges of the table as well as quite a bit on the legs. You're looking to make some indentations and kind of get back down to the wood on any places that would be natural. And this is totally a preference thing. It's up to you how far you go. Again, this might seem a little daunting at first, and if you're concerned about going overboard, just start with a tiny little bit, stand back, take a look, and see where to go from there. Distressing is really fun, and it is a bit easy to get carried away. Sometimes I have distressed quite a lot and I thought it might have been too much, but when I walk away and come back to the project, I normally end up loving it. And look at us, we are already ready to seal this piece. I am going to be using a triple thick water-based polyurethane on the top of this table. And I'm going to use poly because as this is a dining table, it will be getting a fair amount of use, so I want to make sure it's properly protected. I am using a disposable chip brush and going in the same direction as my grain. The stuff is fairly easy to work with. I'm just going in small sections and making sure it's all smoothed out. You want to make sure if you are using one of these cheaper chip brushes that you're not leaving any bristles behind. And so I just apply it and smooth it out. I don't want to work at it too much before it gets tacky, but as I said, it goes on fairly easy. And you want to make sure if you're doing this that you do use a water-based formula, because that means it will not yellow over time as compared to an oil-based formula. It's also a lot easier to clean up. Also, why I am doing this in a nice dress, I have no idea. Sometimes you just get the impulse to make stuff, you know? For the legs, I am going to be using a clear finishing wax by Jolie, and this is normally my preference to do poly on top and wax on the bottom because the poly is smelly and sticky. I don't really like using a lot of it, whereas wax on the legs below, it's a lot easier to refinish if ever somebody would want to do that, and it's just a nicer, softer to the touch feel as well. So after making sure all of my dust is wiped away, I'm going to grab my wax brush to apply this. A wax brush is normally dense with natural fibers and it really helps spread it on. You can also use a cloth to put wax on, or any rag like a t-shirt or a shop towel. And you can also wipe back your wax after you've applied it. This can make more of a shiny finish. You can also just leave it the way it is and that'll leave a more matte finish. Wax normally takes quite a bit to cure, at least a couple days, if not longer. So if you're using wax on top of a surface that items might be placed, I would recommend setting it somewhere to cure before you put it in its final destination. Here on these legs, I'm not too concerned about that though. I left that all to dry overnight, and the next day I was ready for the reveal. Another one done! What do you think? Easy, classic, timeless. You can really never go wrong with white. I love the texture coming through the top, as well as the distressing around the edges. This looks like a table pulled out of an old French villa kitchen. I'll link a few more videos about glazing if you're interested in learning more. Oh, and by the way, I also have a tutorial on the stone look vase on this table, so check that out too. Thanks for sticking around, and I'll catch you on the flip side.